So this month of, what are we, April? I read a couple of things, a few were adults that I don't know if you guys want to hear about, but do let us know in the comments. I did read some graphic novels, and 2 of them I'm going to talk to you about. And not because I didn't like the other ones, but because things are coming. One of them that I really enjoyed was The Prince and the Dressmaker. It's about this girl who is a designer, and she's very dramatic and talented. And the prince decides to hire her, but not to make clothes for a regular prince. No, this prince likes to dress up as a gorgeous girl. The story in here is a lot about friendship and about trusting each other, and really about learning how to be yourself and be brave enough to let other people know how fabulous you are. Jen Wang, fantastic job. I highly recommend this book for anyone that enjoys graphic novels or wants a quick, short, fun read. I've been going through the Saga series. This graphic novels are about this family. They are from 2 totally different worlds that are at war with each other, and there's a lot of hate and a lot of strife, but they fall in love and they have a child together. And that is not a spoiler, that is literally like page 1. There's many obstacles along the way, and a lot of enemies are trying to find them because they don't want this couple and their child especially to exist. They don't want this war to end for many reasons. So there's a lot of different kingdoms and bounty hunters out after that. What happens? You have to read it and find out. This is about a young girl, Li Chan, who just lost her mother after her mother suffered many years with debilitating depression, and her mother commits suicide. Her father is a very loving father, but he has spent many of those years traveling for work and for business, and he's also the father that is very controlling, not in a horrible way, but he is very much the kind of father who has expectations of his daughter. She ends up getting messages from this bird that she thinks that is her mother. In fact, the very first line is one of my favorite lines I have read in any book. My mother is a bird. This isn't like some William Faulkner stream of consciousness metaphorical crap. My mother is literally a bird. Her mother might or might not be a bird, but she takes these signs from this bird and decides to go and visit her grandparents in another country, I believe Taiwan, and she uncovers a lot of secrets and a lot of information about who her mother was and who her grandparents were and the history behind her family, and it informs a lot about herself as well. It is just beautifully written. There's a lot about color in here, emotions that are tied to color, and I just found that so fascinating. Constantly kept me interested to read more and figure out how the story ended. So go read it. And the book that I literally just finished, and also an audiobook because it's read by the actress who plays Barbara in Stranger Things. And if you watch Stranger Things, you know how exciting that is. I really enjoyed this book a lot for the reason that I'm a huge Simon versus the Homo Sapiens agenda, and I love the movie. I love to see where these characters picked up. There's a bit of a time jump from the first book to this one. They were juniors and now they're seniors, and they're applying for college and getting accepted into college, and changes in relationships. Leah, the main character, she is trying to figure out who she is and what she really wants, and is figuring things out. That's all I can say. Simon, on the other hand, her very best friend, is kind of afraid of change. As these characters go through college applications and prom and graduation, there's so much that happens that changes them, you know, from the first book to this book. And it's such a good book to read for itself, just to see how Leah's journey unfolds, but also to see how these characters develop and change over, you know, over 2 books. And if you haven't read any of those books, just go do it. It's so high school. If you're in high school, read it. It's very fun. There's a girl band in here, which I love it. Prom shenanigans in here that are really funny. There's a road trip to Athens, Hala, for those Georgians that know where Athens is. But this is just so good, and the characters go through so much fun things, and it's just adorable. Becky just does it so well.
So The Bells is about this kingdom called Orleans that focuses very intensely on beauty. Men, women, children, everybody has to be beautiful because their natural state is not beautiful. They're these sort of ugly, gray creatures. And so they have these very specialized women called the Bells who are able to make them beautiful. This book follows one of the Belles, Camelia. She's very, very competitive. She's very inventive, and she's a bit of a rule breaker. And so she ends up not being the favorite, who is the belle who gets to work with the royal family. She's put into basically like the capital city tea house. And something happens along the way where she ends up replacing her sister as the favorite. As she's going through, working at the tea house and then working for the royal family, she's starting to see like how everything isn't quite as beautiful as it seems. I could start to tell very quickly like that things were off. She couldn't say no to certain people, and like she had to do things she didn't want to do that just to me like screamed as like wrong. That means that you don't have freedom, that you don't have independence. Those things hold a lot of high value in our society, but not in this society, particularly, especially not for the Belles. As she goes on and she realizes like really how complicated her world is and like what her role really is. By the end, like I was not sure where it was gonna go. There were some things that I was like, knew that was gonna happen, but for the most part, I wasn't sure where exactly this book was heading. This kept me like riveted the whole time. It's very much like politics and like maneuvering around people and like trying to understand your place in the society that you're in, realizing that the society you're in might not be as fair, as beautiful as you initially thought it was. Camelia's emotional journey was really compelling. So I would 100% recommend this book. I don't have the physical copy with me. Was Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. It's very different from both of the other books that I read. So I predominantly read sci-fi and fantasy, and this book was historical fiction. And I really do like historical fiction a lot. It follows sort of the story, like a very uncommon story that like no one really hears in history during the World War II era where a bunch of refugees from East Prussia were heading towards Germany because the Russian army was basically invading like across the land, and they stopped in one of the ports and boarded ships to go across the sea to get into Germany. It follows 4 young people, Joanna, Florian, Amelia, and Alfred. And so Joanna is a young nurse. Florian is like a young sort of art historian, restoration. That was his job. Amelia is a young Polish girl. At that time, if you know about like World War II history, like at a time the Polish were being treated very, very terribly by the Nazis. So for her, she kind of has to like hide the fact that she's Polish. And then Alfred, who's actually a young Nazi. And it's interesting getting his point of view, how and why a young person would buy into, the Nazi philosophy, but then also like how kind of people who were forced into being in the Nazi army maybe don't buy into it so much. Alfred is at the port, and so you're hearing like him talking about sort of the day-to-day things as he mentally composes letters to this girl back home that he liked. And then Joanna, Florian, and Amelia are traveling across East Prussia to get to the port. They go through all these trials, and like traveling is really hard. Some of them have papers, some of them don't. All of them have like these secrets about, who they are and where they came from, what happened to them, because like they've all been affected by the war in some way. It's really interesting as you see like their stories develop and their relationships develop, and how like these people who are going through this really hard journey together, how the 3 of them sort of become a tight-knit family with the other people that they're traveling with, and then sort of what happens to them once they reach the port. So I thought it was compelling. I loved it. The book that I finished this past month was the second book in the Illuminae trilogy, which the third one just came out, so I'm like, I really want to read it. But I read Gemina. I'm a graphic designer, so like the design in these books is like, for me, like I love it, and I love what it's like trying to convey. If you've read Illuminae, this book is in the same universe and about the same issue, but it follows Heimdall Jump Station, where like people are able to go through like hyperspace to like jump to different areas of the universe. At this station, there's 2 young people who it follows, who's basically like the commander's daughter, and her whole thing is like her and her father have this relationship where he's constantly teaching her strategy and like critical thinking and teaching her how to defend herself. And then it follows Nick, who's this young Russian, basically gangster, and he's very involved in like his family's business, attacked by the same entity who attacked and chased the characters in the first book, Illuminae. It's about how Hannah and Nick sort of survive this attack, and there's like multiple things. Of course, like there's disasters upon disasters in this book. Basically like special forces group that's killing off people. This like wormhole that's like in the middle of the Heimdall station. This thing is kind of like maybe sort of malfunctioning. If you know anything about wormholes, wormholes are weird and weird things happen when they malfunction. And then there's also these like alien things, and they like invade people's bodies. Yeah, no, it's real bad. How the hell will they get through all these like disasters one after another and survive to actually tell the characters from Illuminae who are coming to the Heimdall station that like everything's gone wrong? See our favorite AI again, and I 100% recommend it. It was really hard to put down. My dog was constantly vying for my attention as I was reading this book, which maybe you saw on my Instagram.
This book, The Strange Fascinations of Noah Hypnotic by David Arnold, my arch nemesis, is probably the first time in my life where I read a book where I felt the person listened to me speak inside of my head and then created a character. Like, I so connect with Noah. This is an amazing novel about a boy who just decides to like fake a back injury because he doesn't want to like get caught up in the normalcy of his like, I'm gonna be a swimmer, recruits are gonna come get me, I'm gonna go to college jizz. That's like the beginning. Like it launches him down this path of like meeting someone who hypnotizes him and him changing his view on things. And like it's so complicated and complex and delicious but beautiful and easy all at the same time that I don't want to like give anything away, and I don't know how to properly do that because the book, every morsel is so delicious and you need it and you need to discover it as it happens. So I'm just gonna say this: get it, get it, get it.